Trevor. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy stepping into these Growth Club events, and I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that we're all business owners, so we're all on the same page, and it always gets exciting to kind of share stories, and a few of my thoughts around how businesses can recover in the space and what's important to them at the end of the day. So I'm gonna follow this as per normal. So I'm hoping the video after this presents, because I hate talking about myself, but I was told I needed to do a better job at marketing myself. So so this is what this is, but it's cheesy as hell. So good luck.
Technology fails unless it adds value to people's lives. People are the centerpiece of life, the purpose behind the products and services we create. Your next speaker shares insight into bridging the gap between people and technology. A catalyst and visionary, Mike has pioneered a number of businesses to meet people's needs in a digital economy. He is the CEO of GrowthCLUB, a strategic digital agency dedicated to solving business challenges. He is also the founder of the GrowthCLUB Academy and two nonprofit organizations focused on supporting women in digital and young entrepreneurs. Mike is an internationally acclaimed speaker and the author of 3 books. He has received global recognition as a digital thought leader, with a deep belief that entrepreneurship is one of the most powerful solutions to poverty. Using his frenetic energy and mischievous curiosity, he thrives in processing the complex and distilling it into simple formulas and solutions. Please welcome Mike Saunders.
Okay, cheesy moment done. There we go. So guys, just wanting to share a couple of thoughts. Incredibly frustrated that we were in lockdown. I had relaunched GrowthCLUB's new branding, the Academy's new branding, and I'd relaunched my personal brand into the speaker arena. We had full steam ahead in our marketing and advertising plans to really push our business forward in March. We posted, finished, and as we went in, and we sort of literally about 2 days before it celebrated that we successfully launched our brand. All books across South Africa in all were shut, and everything trading experience. And what I do and tend to do in these spaces is research a lot, try and do a lot of soul searching in that environment. And I just wrote a very simple article about some of the things that I felt that as leaders we should be thinking about and acting on in the COVID experience. And that article did better than most of the content that I produced. People just responded well to it, and I don't think it was particularly because of the COVID conversation. I think there's so much COVID content out there that we're all exhausted by it. But some of the things that came through for me were box standard leadership things, but there were a couple of new nuances that I think we needed to adapt to as leaders, and I think this is going to be some of our biggest challenge. And so because the article did well, I posted another video on it, and then I later got asked to speak at a few conferences and webinars around this virtually as well. So when when Trevor asked if I'd speak into this, at the very least, I hope it would be encouraging for you. And then I'm also going to be sharing some of my thoughts around what our priorities are or should be post-COVID. There's an interesting experience, and I'm not sure if the rest of you are feeling this, if you are founders of your business. So if you started from scratch, like I did about 10, 11 years ago, I think you will feel like this environment that we're in is very familiar. You're going to feel because it has, and you experience many of the same challenges that you would have faced getting your business off the ground at the beginning. And so what I'm feeling now is almost a sense of excitement for what's coming, because there is actually no other way but up for our businesses. And that's really exciting, and it's an interesting space. And for someone who loves to start projects, it's nice to kind of, or in a sense, almost restart a few of my own projects. And so let me just share a couple of these things with you. And by the way, I'm not a person who is put off by people interjecting and who have comments on that. So if there are things you'd like to chat about or answer as we go through, please feel free to do so. Webinars are, in my opinion, probably the worst thing on the planet in terms of just being able to engage with other people. And I think we've been saying that on an ongoing basis today is that it's better to be in front of people. But I really just hope that you will use that time. I actually, from where I'm sitting, I can't see whether or not people have raised their hands. But if one of the hosts just wanted to interject at any point, if there are any questions, please do so, and please feel free to do so, because I'd rather this was an interesting time for everybody as opposed to just me diatribing for the next 45 minutes. So I've broken this thing into 3 sections, and the first is going to be around leadership handles. And the first thing that I want to say is something that I think is becoming increasingly difficult, is that our role as leaders is to support the bigger picture. You end up with a person like Cyril, who's trying to lead a country, and to do so he needs the support of its leaders, and its leaders need to come together around the ideas that he has in leadership. And so a massive part of his success is whether or not we can back, and there's a lot of content around at the moment. And for someone who's in marketing, I have a love-hate relationship for media. And it was described to me like this: media who pretty much will do everything that they can to make sure that all eyes are on them. They'll dance on the table. They'll do the most embarrassing things on the planet. Everybody's laughing at her. They're staring at her. They're not enjoying the process with her, but all eyes are on her. And she will kiss Jeff at the end of the night and make a whole pile of regrettable decisions. And all of that is just on the basis that that drunk girl of the people on her. And that's what media does. It isn't really that interested in creating environments that are purposeful and interesting and trying to generate and lead a country out of a space. All it's trying to do is keep eyes on itself. And so it's talking about the things that will keep its eye on itself. It's doing the things that are embarrassing to our country. And I really don't feel that media has played a very successful part in our journey. And so from a leadership perspective, we really need to sift through the detritus that sits out there and find a common view of what that bigger picture is as a country, as we support our economy. And I think for in many ways, for the last sort of 2 months or so, we've been forced as leaders to do very little because of the lockdown implications. But come Monday, we're basically back in business. And we have a lot of opportunity to influence and to drive the future of our country forward. And I think we need to understand that our job is not just to get our businesses online or get our businesses up and running, but our job is to get this country moving again. And it's going to be quite something. So the big thing that resonates with me at the moment is aligning ourselves with Cyril. I do want to say that since I've written this, we've had a whole pile of sub-political leaders that are doing all sorts of things, and there definitely seems to be a bit of a misalignment in places around our country from a political standpoint. And so I'm not suggesting that we take everything as gold that is said from government, but I do believe that their core overviews of what they're trying to do in reigniting our economy and still putting health of our country at the forefront of our recovery strategy, I think is important for us as leaders to understand and to find our way around. So I think that it's going to be an interesting challenge because we are very opinionated as leaders. We're leaders because we're opinionated, and we have strong views. And it's going to take some time and some deliberation from our side to really align our leadership values to the success of our country in the future. So thinking about that big picture, I think, is a big, important thing that we need to understand. The other thing is something that's really difficult to do in a time of crisis. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the human brain is not as smart as we'd like. It acts in a very instinctive manner. And so what happens is that when we live in crisis or we experience crisis, one of the biggest challenges that we face is that our brains move into a very hyper-focused environment. And so we focus on the problem. We spend our lives searching the problem, figuring out the problem. And what that does in our mind is it makes the problem bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We become so, and this is also why I think media hasn't played its part in this respect, because it's added fuel to this fire, is that we now start analyzing every small detail of this that actually has no value to us at the end of the day. We become so consumed with the pandemic that we lose sight of what really matters. And so there are a number of business philosophies that go along this line. The one is look out the window. So stop being so focused on your own business, look outward, understand what the whole economy is doing, how things are happening, what other people are doing, who's sitting outside your window that you didn't know was there that can help you navigate something inside your business. The other analogy is instead of being the dancer on the dance floor, take some time, step away, and stand on the balcony and watch the dancing take place and get an idea of the trends and the things that are working and who's doing well and who isn't. And understanding those dynamics, I think, are really important. But we're in an environment where we don't have the opportunity to think long. And so our responsibility then is to think hard, and that is to really take the time out and to force ourselves time out to bring in new thoughts and new ideas in being able to tackle this. And on the back of that, I do want to, I can just share some of the stuff that I've done. I've forced myself away from technology on weekends as much as I can. I'm a bit of a technological freak in that respect. I'm sort of always attached to some device and from one place. When I do leave tech, I end up with almost nothing to do. But I have found that because of the nature of how we're being harassed in this technological space at the moment by this crisis, I'm finding that moving away from devices is actually reducing my sense of anxiety around these challenges. And it is also forcing me to be able to think. So I'm putting my phone down and opting rather to pick up a book or spend some time with family or have a conversation with someone whose opinion I find important. I'm using my commute time to do different things. And I've treated the time that it takes me to get to work to do different things. So I sit down with a cup of coffee and I read a book in the mornings, which is something I never really afforded my time or gave myself the luxury to do. But that is helping me to think harder and to expose myself to more ideals. And on that note, though, I do want to just share the book that I'm reading at the moment. It's called On Grand Strategy. And this guy, John Lewis Gaddis, is a Pulitzer Prize winner for a previous book, but he's a historian who studies war. And why I picked it up, I bought it because it was recommended, but why I picked it up during this time is that war is the most resource heavy and resource constrained strategic ventures that you can step into. And I feel like that is very similar to what our businesses are going to be like in the next few months. And so I've just read through the first part where they've spoken about how Athens built its empire and how it started to fall, and what was so important about that, and what were the key strategic agendas that they faced. And there's some really powerful stuff that's out there. It's Pulitzer Prize winner for a reason, and it's a great book on strategy. So if you're looking for broader thoughts than the normal business conventional wisdom that are really powerful, I can recommend it. So think hard, find the time to get out of things. The next thing is move swiftly and move with confidence. Your team is looking to you. They know that this is unprecedented, but that doesn't give you the excuse to move without confidence. You need to have done the thinking well enough and hard enough to really build this out for you, and that you're clear about your strategic direction. We didn't have the luxury. I put my 3-month plans together at the beginning of March, and I found myself reviewing them the day after lockdown and having to look at this entirely new environment. But I didn't have the freedom of a month or two to do the thinking and unpack it and then put the next strategies in place. I had to do that within a very short space of time. And once those decisions were made, we moved fast and we moved with confidence, knowing that these were the things that we needed to do. And these are the two things that I think, firstly, people will appreciate, especially your team. In the absence of knowledge and information about where your business is going, people in a natural sense will fill that gap with their own version of that story. And when people do that, they always paint the worst picture. So they are sitting in a position where they're hearing about retrenchments, they're hearing about salary cuts, they're hearing about all of these things that are happening to other people. And so they will just paint the worst picture on the planet for themselves. And so if you aren't telling that story, if you aren't moving them in a particular direction swiftly and with confidence, they are painting their own story, they are making their own plans, and they're doing so in a crisis-oriented mindset, which is never going to be great for you in your business in the long run. So move swiftly and move with confidence. Here's one that I think is a bit juxtaposed to standard leadership. And this became quite clear to me on reading 12 Rules for Life a couple of months ago. And in our current environment, we find a specific change that's happened in the way we lead. And so if I explain it to you like this, our role as leaders, we find ourselves very often pushing people out of their comfort zones and into a state of chaos, for want of a better phrase. 12 Rules for Life refers to it as order and chaos, and that people are happiest when they find one foot firmly placed in order and one foot placed in growth, move into new things. Order is what keeps us secure, helps us understand that we have that we can still lean back on. But if we stay in order only and both our feet are firmly planted there, we become complacent and depressed. But if we're staying in chaos and we only stay in chaos with both our feet in that environment, then what ends up happening is we end up working out of a crisis mode and we lose our ability to think clearly. And so you need a healthy individual in your business, one who's going to progress and build your business as someone who has a foot in each. Now, normally, our leadership challenge is that our employees and our team are sitting with both feet in order. And so we are tasked to push them into chaos and to get them to put that step out and to push them for growth. But today, both their feet are sitting in chaos. They don't know what's happening. They're working out of crisis mindset. Their world has changed. Their income has shifted. They don't know what the future holds for them. They're sitting in a space of chaos. And so our leadership mandate has not changed. But the priority that we normally face in trying to get people to step out into the chaos environment so that they can grow, our leadership, the tactics we need to start to employ here are to create safety and order in their world. And this is going to come with how clearly we communicate, what infrastructures we put into place to protect them. And then they are already sitting in that chaos space. And so to create a space for growth for your people, I think we need to spend a lot of time creating a safe zone for them in order to give them stability to grow from. Because I think that stability has been ripped out of a lot of our teams' lives right now. Constantly relook and reframe. I don't know about you, but I'm finding that every day something happens in my business that is positive and negative, and that I'm constantly riding a wave. And I'm hoping that that general trajectory is up. But what I'm finding on an ongoing basis is that we need to look and reframe. But we say this very often, and we treat this in a quarterly mindset. But in a COVID crisis that's impacted us like it has, I think we need to be doing this every day. We need to be relooking at what the situation holds, what our opportunities and what our threats are, and we need to reframe and move ahead with that. I don't think we need to be making decisions that shift our business every single day. I think that would create a schizophrenia that you cannot actually keep up with. But I do think that we need to be constantly relooking and keeping that door open to the opportunities and the threats that have come up on a day-by-day basis. Because as we build this economy, things are going to happen daily that are going to change our landscape, and we need to be ready to take hold of that. And then I think so many of us, and I was very tempted at this point to just can my vision for the next year or so and just allow my business to reconsolidate and just to kind of be what it is. And I was re-challenged on this just in the way that I started to think about it, is that if we go back to that idea that in a crisis environment, people push towards essentials. In that environment, there is a huge lack of hope. And hope is something that keeps people in check in these times of crises. And it helps them to move away from their everyday crisis mindset, where they're just focused on the problem itself and everything it's going to do and take away from them. And a hope mindset allows people to be able to think broader than that. And so I think that your company vision needs to be more clearly communicated and articulated in today's world than it ever has before. Because setting that direction will give your people something new to set their sights on. That is going to be a lot more beneficial to them than the constant triage of news and reviews and things that are just hammering them at the moment. So don't let your vision die. In fact, find ways to push it even harder than you have in the past right now. I'm going to ask if there are questions there. Yeah, I think we've been in 25 minutes. So I'm going to just see if there are any questions. If they're not, then I'm quite happy to move on to the next step, the next stage of my presentation.
I'm just watching the chat forum there, Mike. I don't. Anybody got any questions? Put them in the chat at any stage as well. So even if you have issues with your microphone or anything like that, put your question in the group chat, and Shirley or myself could throw the question at Mike. But for now, just a quick one. Any questions for Mike? Or can we carry on to the next session?
Cool.
Yeah, brilliant. But keep that back. That's excellent. Thank you. Okay.
Sure. You did a great job, Mike. I know it's really hard when you're doing these things. You just don't get any feedback. You're not boring anyone, and I think that's great. Great value.
That's great.
If you don't mind, just on that point, those of you that are still new to Zoom, you'll see at the bottom right of your Zoom window, there's a little reactions button there where you can actually give a virtual thumbs up or anything like that. So if ever you want to just get Mike any feedback in that way as well. But great, Karen, Mike,
cool.
Thanks.
So guys, what I'm going to say now is, and I believe this, that what I'm going to be sharing with you now wholeheartedly, is that we end up in a position where we have to face that there's a lot that needs to change in the way we do business. I am not an advocate for this this philosophy of this new world, this digital no touch world mindset that does come as a shock to quite a few people that I speak to, because I am very digitally orientated. But I don't believe that technology interactions are going to ever supersede digital interactions. And so so I do think that we're going to have a lot more people that are more open to digital interactions, but I don't digital thought leaders out there have hyped up that the technology world is just going to go bananas after this. I don't really believe that that's going to be as impactful. But I do think that it has highlighted both the opportunity and the possibility of technology becoming a huge player in your business, and showing how easy it actually is to achieve at the end of the day. So try not to buy into the hype, but I do see that there are some big prioritizations that we need to make in transforming our business to a post-COVID environment. And so where we're going to focus our energy. So the first one is going to be sales and marketing. We have seen a massive slowdown in the way people are spending and what they're spending money on. I think in a previous coaching session today, there was a comment that was made that businesses are rethinking all of their costs because they've had to do so, and they've realized they can run their business on much cheaper. And that's great for the business, but it's not great for the economy, because it means we're not spending money where we used to. And so moving this economy forward is going to be a very big sales and marketing opportunity, where we're going to reinstate as businesses the value that we provide to people and reconvince them that that value is real in order for them to get to spend. Right. Then I want to talk to you about where I think we're going to see a lot of interesting challenges that are going to be faced. So on the 1st of June, our economy opened a massive surgence in Google and digital advertising across the board. That surgence is going to push us into an incredibly expensive environment. Okay. So if you don't understand how digital advertising works, let me explain it to you like this. It works on a bid system. All digital advertising is built on a bid system. In other words, the more competitive an environment gets, the more expensive it is to generate a lead out of that environment. And they do that by managing the cost per click or the cost per impression. And now, competitive and all of the new competitors that are in your marketplace that have seen your business, your industry as an opportunity to grow their business during hard times. So think of all those people who are going to be investing into advertising. They're going to be pushing the demand up like you've never seen before, which is going to push your cost per click up, which is going to push your cost per acquisition up. And in this case, I think strategies that are built around acquisition of clients, paid acquisition of clients, are important, but they're not going to be as valuable as they were to you in the past. And so if you are walking into next week with a strategy that is built around just advertising again and just kind of kicking those things up, I think you need to expect that you're going to see less leads, and it's going to cost you more in that structure. So where I see a huge opportunity are for those businesses that have an existing community. And by community, our digital network that generates business. The client database that you have in your CRM or your email marketing lists, your fans on Facebook, your followers on Twitter, your connections on LinkedIn. These are all places these are all connections and connection points that fall into what I define as your community as a business. I spent 400 Rand on a marketing idea in the middle of April that generated 19 successful leads into my business that that successfully turned into business over the April and May period, and has actually set up probably 80% of those have set up new opportunities for us. And I've closed business out of those in the last 2 months. And my ad budget was 400 Rand. And the reason that worked had nothing to do with my ad budget. It had everything to do with the fact that all I did was re-engage my existing community. And so your strength in being able to generate business and reignite your sales channels is going to come out of the strength of your community, who you know, what your customers are. I've just done an exercise now with a client of mine who has bought into this idea of full tilt and has now left me doing data analysis on close to 1 million customers of theirs over the last 5 years, looking for ways to reignite their campaign, because they're going to face the biggest problem with competitive advertising pricing in the future. So there's a big challenge that we're going to face here. So my encouragement is find ways to re-engage and to reignite your existing community, because that will be a lot more effective for you, and it will help you be able to get your business off the ground quickly. Okay. Then I'm gonna say to you this, and I'm gonna try and explain it like this in the best way possible. You don't need a website. You don't need a social media page. You need leads. That's what you need at the end of the day. So don't build marketing strategies, build lead engines. And the difference is a lead engine takes someone from somewhere, puts them into a pipeline of sales in your business as fast as humanly possible. Don't waste money on extra months. Focus all of your energy in the mundane, boring ideas that generate leads, because that's where people will spend, and that's how you're going to turn your conversions. Leads for many people are very often seen as the main priority, especially in the SME space. But what I have experienced and what I have seen is that we get caught up with things like I need to be on Facebook instead of I need to generate more leads. And so make that your priority, is lead generation and not awareness. Awareness is a good strategy, but it's plugged into and can build your business in a much faster way on an ongoing basis. I'm going to share that I want to share with you, and that is that especially in an SME environment and even in large organizations, we often look at marketing as campaigns, short-term interventions that generate leads in our business. And when we create those generations, those campaigns, those campaigns are funnels and advertising vehicles. And that's essentially it, right down to the bare bones of it. But what I've learned is that those businesses that are successful in the digital space are businesses that have built content process over content campaigns. So I'm going to share my example of this. Our biggest marketing engine is a KPI-driven process that happens every quarter, where selected people in our business have to create content. It's KPI driven. It sits on their quarterly sheets. It's driven as a project within our business, and it is an ongoing thing that happens in our business. You have to generate X amount of pieces of content. The difference between that is that when we ran as a business in a campaign environment for the last 2 years, the problem is that every time something came up that was busy, what's the first thing that drops? Your marketing process, your marketing campaigns. Every time you need to save money, your marketing campaigns drop. But if you build it into your KPI, you find that your engine as a business naturally starts to market itself. And that's what we want in the social media space and in the digital space, is a natural ability to develop processes that market your business. And so content process over campaigns, I think, is going to be a really big opportunity for you as businesses right now, is to consider what processes you can put in place that naturally market your business, as opposed to what your next campaign is going to be. Campaigns cost money and they generate leads. Process costs time and it generates leads. Which would you rather spend? Okay. Digital delivery is going to become a very big key for us, and things like webinars, being able to do initial consults, putting all these things together. Think about the delivery of your product in the digital space. I recently, in fact, this morning, reviewed the new Checkers e-commerce app. And that application is called 6060, and they have found a way to deliver short-term space, which is a big human need. So even though they've had days, they have pushed further ahead to try and solve bigger problems in this space. I don't know if anyone's tried to book to order e-commerce on Woolworths lately, but you're going to wait a week. And Checkers have competitively driven into this by looking at a very particular issue, the digital delivery of their service, of their retail products. And so if you're going to stand out, you're going to do that in the digital delivery space. So rethink not just about how you handle your sales and marketing, but how you deliver your services, and look for digital opportunities, because it will help you get more done in a shorter space of time and scale your business. And then also in the sales and marketing space, and it lends itself into the digital delivery, it's the follow-on from that. But one of your big opportunities here is to look at product development, and really what is so beautiful about a resource-strapped economy is that we really start to understand what people want and what they need. And that's a core piece of my is that once you don't have products and businesses. So what do you want to be able to do with these products? You want to build products that attract new customers, that retain new customers, that retain existing customers, and that reimagine your business. So I'm going to give you users and what they're doing specifically, but I'm busy consulting a client at the moment who's using the next 3 months of their business where they have downtime to basically put a brand new product into the market that is in line with who they are, but that opens the door to new customers, an entirely new customer base. And so by doing this, they're setting themselves up for future success. They're opening the door to future customers, and they no longer have to be completely reliant on their existing customer base, but that they can actually start to successfully work into a new customer base as well. So when you're looking at your future product as a business, think about what is going to attract new customers to what I'm doing, what is going to retain my existing customers, and what is going to reimagine my business and its customer base. What opportunities do I have there? I want to share an example. In Joburg, we rent space from WeWork in Sandton, and that's where our Joburg office is based. And I was quite impressed with the way that they, as a property company, handled this. They needed to find a way to obviously retain their customer base. So there were a lot of things they did in the background which were favorable towards those small businesses that rent their space. So I'm not going to get into that though. But what I am going to say is that they use the power of their community. So if you're a WeWork member, you'll know that if you rent space from WeWork, you end up in downloading an application, which is what you use to book meeting rooms, etc. But on top of that application is a social network. So think of Facebook, but for the entire WeWork global community. And that community can be mined for business. It can be mined for all sorts of things. But what WeWork did, which was so smart of them, is that they mined that database to find clients of theirs who could support the greater clients of theirs as a community. So they found people who could walk the journey of the COVID experience in the States, in South Africa, wherever it was taking place around the world. And they provided content and opportunities for those businesses to support each other. Now, what that did is that they found a way to reimagine the product that they have as a business to retain their existing customer base. And so by doing that and seeing the way that they've supported each other, because if they created a community, which is what they did, they created a community that supports each other, they naturally facilitated business development between their customers. And that supports their community better than anything else they could have done. And so this is what I mean about reimagining your product base and finding ways to attract and retain customers. So I've spoken to this briefly, and I am starting to run out of time. Okay, I'll do a quick book plug if you can still see my video. But this is the book I wrote that got locked into bookstores before a week after I launched it. It's now available in stores, so you can get your hands on it. But this book speaks about how you find product opportunities, and in a very simple fashion. Okay. What we need to look at is the fact that we have to look at people's needs, their wants, and the way in which they interact. That's the core basis of what makes a successful product. If you cannot meet those three needs, if you cannot find a way to interact with people the way they want to be interacted with, you can't meet their wants and their needs, you don't have a product opportunity. And this is what so many people forget. They look at commercial value first before they look at people usage, and technology fails unless people use it at the end of the day. And so find new ways of being able to drive that. And then obviously we've been looking at virtual workspaces. This has become a very big thing on this basis that people are talking to. And there's a whole pile of research that's now been released, which I'm going to share some of the highlights of that with you around what people are feeling about virtual workspaces. So now that it's starting to set in, we're starting to see quite a few interesting challenges. So people are struggling with work-life balance. So your people are struggling with work-life balance. It's one of the biggest challenges they're facing. I've got staff that live in one-bedroom homes where both of them are running their jobs from the same place. Laptops are sitting on their dining room tables. Their office is the bedroom or the dining room table or the kitchen table. So it becomes quite challenging for them, and we need to find ways as businesses to be able to help them with this challenge. Some really nice opportunities. People tend to be 30 to 40% more productive on a day-to-day basis in virtual work environments because they have a lot more control over their day. I know for myself, as an entrepreneur, I've found that I've got a lot more time to focus on my business because I'm not being pulled into every sort of secondary conversation that I would normally be brought into. I'm only being brought into those where people really need me to weigh in. There's a whole bunch of tools that are coming to the fore, which are showing themselves to be really great. And Slack is a big one. Slack as well. Microsoft Teams has nicely as Slack packages it, but from a cost-based point of view, I get a lot more of the virtual resources that I need out of the Office 365 business packages than if I've knit together multiple platforms like Slack and Zoom, etc. Google Hangouts is being used a lot as an incredibly stable space. especially from an instant messaging point of view, and then also in the conferencing space. Zoom is obviously a big one. We're using it now. There have been security concerns around Zoom. Zoom seems to have dealt with that in a very big way. So the way I understand it is that those security concerns are more perceived, that they're not necessarily actually there anymore. I personally run our business on Microsoft Teams, and we've been doing that relatively successfully. One of the biggest challenges we face is collaboration. So how do we do that? We've got tools like Trello, Confluence, Google Documents. We're using Microsoft SharePoint and 365 in the same space. Monday.com is doing really well at the moment in this respect. And then in the ad and project management, content management space, Chase and Magnetic Online are two tools that guys are using a lot. One of the things that I would suggest that you start looking for if you're going to continue in a virtual space, and we as a business, as a COVID response, we have actually told our team we're going to work virtually till the end of the financial year on that basis. And so one of the things that we're seeing in that progression is that our business and most businesses need a way to successfully communicate your strategic objectives to your team, and to measure and dashboard that carefully back into the business so people can see their progress. Because you're no longer standing in front of them every day going, hey guys, we're doing it. Let's go, let's go, let's go. You don't have that luxury. So we have to find digital tools to be able to do that. And then I'm going to jump into this. The culture in a virtual environment needs to be managed completely differently to that of a physical environment. Your physical environments naturally equate certain cultural things that can be facilitated. Like you can have chit chat in the office because you have a kitchenette, that kind of thing. You no longer have that. So you have to become more mindful in the way you deliver that culture. And then on top of that, you also need to be aware that no longer carries its status as much as it does when you were in the room with them than when you're working in a virtual environment. And so you have to find ways to allow that to naturally take place. And and clarity becomes one of our biggest challenges as we face that. Is how do we provide that clarity? Also think about your communication rhythm. How often do you meet? Virtual meetings operationally need us to meet more frequently, so we should be doing things like daily stand-ups, but there are other things that don't need to be pushed as hard. And so think about your communication rhythm very carefully at this time. And then I'm going to jump into recovery, which I'm going to speak to for 5 minutes. And I just want to share a few ideas with you around that. The first is that think about your recovery in a geographical mindset. If you look at how the South African government is handling their recovery, they're doing that in a geographical space. Relook at your business, not a strategy. Think about it more geographically driven. Which town? Because different rules and regulations in this environment. And then start to innovate fast. You're going to see a whole variety of new needs. I know for ourselves, we have seen a huge new market open up that we are busy developing services for that normally is not available to us. And it's just because the demand and the needs in that particular market have now opened the door for us to get involved. And so look for these things and innovate quickly. Use minimal viable product and design philosophies to be able to get your products off the ground fast. Market them first, sell them, and then get them built as quickly as you can. But we need to be able to see innovation cycles in your business that are lasting 2 or 3 weeks as opposed to 2 or 3 months. And so this is going to take a lot of focus. It means that you're going to need to put the right amount of energy behind things, but we're going to lose out on opportunities if we're not driving our innovation quickly. And then I'm going to close on this note, and just to say that, and as more as a reminder, is that this too shall pass. The lotus leaf as an analogy that I absolutely love. The seed of a lotus starts at the bottom of a marsh, and it slowly works its way through the marsh pit before it lands on top of the water and blooms into a flower. And it's one of the most beautiful plants that exist, but it's worked its way through some of the dirtiest environments that it could inside kind of our ecological ecosystem. And I think that we need to remind ourselves that we're sitting in a marsh pit in this analogy, that we can't see too far ahead of us. We don't quite know what's happening. We might get a glimmer of light every now and then, but it's murky. We don't quite know what we can and can't expect. And we have to plan accordingly for that. And so with a lack of visual of what the future holds, we can only plan for that we know. And that's what we're doing. But it will pass, and we will reach the other end of this, and we will bloom into something really unique and powerful. But start planning now for your economic intake, your uptake, because I think it's going to be one of the most competitive environments we've ever sat in. There's going to be more businesses out there looking for work than there will be businesses ready to spend. And so I think it's going to be one of our toughest, most competitive environments over the next few months. On that note, I do just want to share with you guys that, and I chatted with Trevor about this, is that at the beginning of COVID, we really wanted to support any businesses in their strategies to survive and also to manage the uptake of their business into the new environment. So if you would like to sit with me for an hour for me to understand your business and to be able to provide some direction around how you can handle your sales and marketing channels going forward, building your business development platforms, as well as looking into things like your virtual business and what your team is handling, ready to support any of the businesses out there with knowledge